So how exactly did the Romans cross a river?
Well, by bridge, or possibly walking through it, depending on how deep it was. But I suppose it depends on whether it's like a royal legion or some dude with his mail.
That's a really good point. There is also other options, which we'll come to shortly, as today we try and tackle the story of how the Romans crossed the River Thames. So our journey today starts in Dorchester, which is the town behind us there, not that Dorchester, the Dorchester just to the east of Oxford. We're just going to try and find some shade because it's just so hot today.
There's some.
It's like the 11th of June and it's like 28 degrees, I think, 29 yesterday.
Yep.
Oh, got the Margary, which will be important very shortly. Right, so we found Dorchester, Roman town. We've just walked out of the south end of it. There's a Roman road that heads straight through the middle of it and up south towards Silchester. Now we're going to walk through Dyke Hills and we're going to walk all the way across the Thames to Little Wittenham. Then we're going to walk up into the Wittenham Clumps Hills, Iron Age Hill Fort, all the way across Little Wittenham Wood. And we're going to see if we can find evidence of the Roman road crossing the Thames, but not using the Thames itself. So this is the Dyke Hills, Iron Age, who knows what, defensive works, fortification, but probably defensive works. In terms of the context of the River Thames, I feel like they have something to do with it, but I've no idea, I haven't learned any history here. This is almost a means for us to get to where we want to go and discuss further the Roman road crossing of the River Thames. But I love a good Iron Age earthwork.
Yeah, always good.
Right, we're nearly coming to the top end or the western end of Dyke Hills. We're going to cross the Thames, not where there's any conjecture that the Roman road crossing went, but we're going to head back underneath the Wittenham Clumps over there, you can see in the distance, and hopefully find some evidence as to what route this took. Before we get there, we will discuss how you can find evidence for a Roman road crossing on a river which is going to have silted and changed direction, and the clue is not in the river itself. We got Rebecca?
It's a sign. We like signs. Tend to forget about that sort of thing. Enjoying the River Thames, everybody.
The first thing you need to do really when you're looking to find a crossing for the Roman road is look at a number of different sources. Can you glean anything from the Lidar? It tells us the exact shape of the landscape minus the vegetation. Really useful, but in this sort of flat area of land here, well, it's going to have been silted up, so there's not a lot to see from that. Then you need to look at other sources such as the antiquarians of days of old. Ivan McGarry suggested one particular route and he said it went right over to the east, went over the River Thames and then crossed on that far side. So Ivan McGarry states that, and gone southeastward as the modern road does, to keep along the east bank of the Thames until a suitable crossing place was reached. It doesn't mention a bridge, a ford, anything at all. This seems to have been at a point 3/4 mile from Dorchester called Old Street Ford. Interesting word, found in an early Saxon charter. From it, a straight line of hedgerows runs southwest right up onto the ridge of the downs above Brightwell. That's it, that's the only mention about this crossing of the Thames. So I've come up with another little solution, which is to look at some old maps. One of those contains something really interesting. Back towards the more southern point of the Dorchester, where the crossing could well have been, there's a little note on one of them saying supposed Roman ferry crossing. That fascinates me because I didn't even consider that the Romans would use ferries. So how exactly are we going to decipher where this crossing point was? Over to you, Rebecca.
Oh, we're just going to walk this way and look.
Alright, let's do that. As I said earlier, the clue is not in the river itself. We'll come to that very shortly. Rebecca's got a new app. What's your app, Rebecca?
It's a plant app, so you can find out what plants are. Because we had a couple in our garden. I thought, ooh, are they going to kill the rabbits or the dogs? So I thought I'd check. And now I can't help myself.
Every single plant we pass.
Ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that?
So by the very nature of a river, it's very difficult to find anything that remains of a Roman bridge. Almost impossible because of the nature of a river, the way it moves and meanders and changes over 2,000 years. Highly unlikely you're going to find any evidence. So instead of that, we've come just to the south of the River Thames. We're now parallel to it. We know that the Roman road went straight through the middle to a degree of Dorchester. There's a straight line through it, old track. Now, if the 1880 map is correct, where it said supposed Roman ferry, well, it would have come out here. Now that is exactly where the Tame meets the Thames, and you can understand that because that means they wouldn't have to cross both the Tame and the Thames, they just have to cross the Thames. Ferry, but ferry doesn't indicate a very large crossing in terms of an army or heavy goods. Maybe just the odd bit of mail or the individual here and there. Either way, if that would have been the case, well, we're not going to go down to the river and look because of the reasons we said. We'll stay up here in the trees on a straight line down to where that ferry crossing would have been to see if we can see any evidence in the ground itself, in the landscape, as to if that crossing was actually a thing. So with this wood being where it is, there would be a clear agger here. Had the Roman road gone down to the supposed ferry point, which is directly north of us now, going down to the bank of the Thames. We're not going to see anything on the side of the Thames as we suggested, but somewhere here within 10 or 20 metres either side of us, there would be an agger, a clear peak of a Roman road with some ditches or something. But we've scoured about a bit now everywhere and we can't see anything. Not the greatest vegetation this side, so we're not going to see in there. But again, the Lidar shows up nothing. So really perhaps that supposed ferry point was very much conjecture on the part of the people that made the early OS maps. Right, one last thing to do, which is to go and have a look at Margary's route, which is only a short bit that way, because then there has to be one of these two at least.
Yep. It was weirder. That's well weird. Oh, the little bat fly all over it. Hi, I'm taking a photo of a bumblebee. He hasn't got much pollen on him, it's all on his bum. But not on his legs.
So we're looking for the bit on the OS map that now says Roman Road, and would have come from the point where Margary said that it crossed the Thames in a straight line up towards the top there, and then continued back on the straight line, the bigger picture. The amount of times I say that OS quote Ivan Magari, I never get his name right, as gospel, when he himself, Ivan himself, continued to say, we just don't know. And of course, a lot of his work was based on Codrington and those that came before him. So this is it. This is the north-south pathway that suggests that what OS suggests is a Roman road. This is what Margary said was the route. Came down from the crossroads of the main road at the moment and went up that hill where it rejoined the north-south line, the main north-south line. I'm not sure we're going to see any evidence of a Roman road with this amount of vegetation locally.
No.
So we just walked up that stretch there and it really doesn't feel like a Roman road. I mean, the hedge line goes straight and perhaps there was an old trackway there, and maybe that's why word of mouth through OS, Margary, Codrington, William Camden, all those sort of people, perhaps it just passed down through the antiquarian generations. That was the Roman road, but I can't see any evidence for that or where the ferry is, to be fair. I guess that's one of 3 things that we've learnt today. How Roman roads went over rivers, fords, ferries, and of course bridges. But for me, this has been sort of an introduction.
Yeah.
The evidence is rarely by the river itself, for obvious reasons, in terms of it's silted, you can't find much that level down, and bridges have gone.
Banks have moved.
Absolutely, yeah.
Water and things, yeah.
However, you can find evidence of Roman roads in old forests and things like that, and therefore you can then determine how they cross that road and where they cross that road.
You mean that river?
That river, sorry. It's been a hot,
It
warm,
is a very
long
warm day.
As ever, thanks for watching. We'll see you this time, possibly next week.